This video is a collection of all my 7 photography shorts on the rules of composition. Learn how to build with these rules and unlock the secrets to producing better photos. What are some rules of composition, and how do they help you produce better photos? Just like a composer follows a set of guidelines when arranging a beautiful piece of music, a photographer uses compositional rules to create an aesthetically pleasing photo that grabs and holds your attention. In the visual arts, there are many such rules, like rule of thirds, rule of odds, rule of space, framing, simplicity, diagonals, leading lines, and contrast. If you learn how to use these in your photos, you will instantly increase their quality and effect they have on our viewers. In this series, we are going to cover each one of them in great detail and learn how they can help you take your photos to the next level. Here is a quick way to improve your photos. Apply compositional rules like the rule of thirds. Nothing will have a bigger impact on your photos than this rule. Originally an adaptation of the golden ratio, rule of thirds divides your picture into thirds both horizontally and vertically. Here's why this is important. Don't place the horizon dead center, but move it up to the upper thirds line or bring it down to the lower thirds. This creates an asymmetrical weight distribution, which actually is more appealing. Show more sky or more ground in your pictures, either is fine. Apply the rule of thirds by also placing your subject or focal points off center. Placing the subject dead center creates a static and boring composition. Where these imaginary lines intersect, they create 4 power points. Place your subject on one of these to give them more power and attention. So the next time you're looking through your camera lens, utilize this rule to instantly improve your composition. Here is a quick way to improve your photos. Apply compositional rules like framing. Framing involves using elements in a scene to surround and frame your subject. Framing does so by isolating your subject from the rest of the image. Have you noticed how framing artwork makes it feel complete and cohesive? The same effect occurs in photography. The goal for any photographer is to draw the viewer's attention to the subject matter. Use a mirror or a picture frame to make your subject pop. Or use a doorway to isolate your subject. Even a partially closed door or window will do. Notice how Robert Adams draws our attention to the focal point through man-made frames like windows and other structures. Natural frames can include rock formations, trees, and branches. Sometimes you can create a frame through a shallow depth of field. Your eye is attracted by what is sharp and repelled by what is blurry. So the next time you want to really draw attention to your subject, utilize framing rule and instantly improve your composition. Here is a quick way to improve your photos. Apply compositional rules like the rule of space. This rule simply says to add visual space in front of the subject in the direction they are moving, looking, or pointing. This is to imply motion and direction so as to lead the eye of the viewer forward. The photographer is really interested in creating the impression of movement, thus they are really keen on the negative space in their photos. By giving their subject more room in front, they afford more space to move. Notice what happens when you violate this rule. In this picture, your eye wants to travel in the direction of the cyclist, but it can't since you are instantly met with a wall, the edge of the photo. In the second variation of the same photo, you're given more breathing room, and as a result, the photo looks and feels better than the first. This rule doesn't just apply to fast-moving subjects. It could very well be utilized to stationary ones. A subject's gaze naturally directs our attention where they're looking. So the next time you're taking a picture, apply the rule of space and instantly improve your composition. Here is a quick way to improve your photos. Apply compositional rules like simplicity. This is one of my favorite rules to use because it creates simple yet elegant compositions. One of the challenges in photography is overloading the image. As the viewer, you have to make sense of the visual clutter, which can be very disorienting. Simplicity, on the other hand, is a very minimalistic approach. It states that you should remove all unnecessary elements or distractions and keep your compositions simple to a few elements. Here are some different ways to use it. Move closer to your subject and physically cut out or crop parts of the scene that distract or don't complement your subject. Use shallow depth of field and completely blur the background. This will help the viewer focus and lock onto the subject. Also, don't overload a picture with colors. Less is more. Place a little color in front of a gray background. Highlight your subject by placing them in front of a plain background, open sky, simple wall, a backdrop, or no backdrop at all. So the next time you're taking a picture, apply simplicity rule to create simple yet elegant compositions. Here is a quick way to improve your photos. Incorporate compositional rules like leading lines. As it's indicated in the name, this technique uses man-made lines to lead your eye to the most important area in your photo. Not only that, but they create a sense of depth in the photo because they lead towards the horizon, guiding the viewer through foreground, middle ground, and background. One of the easiest ways to incorporate leading lines is to use man-made structures like buildings, bridges, roads, telephone wires, fences, etc. These lines can be straight, zigzag, or wavy. But even natural lines like rivers, trees, and vegetation will do. You see, whenever we look at a picture, our eyes are drawn to lines, which in turn carry our gaze to move around the picture. Movement, one of the principles of design, is very closely related to leading lines. So creating movement in a still photo is highly beneficial. So the next time you're taking a picture, incorporate lines that draw your eye to the subject and create a lot of movement and depth within your picture. Here is one of the easiest ways to improve your photos. Apply compositional rules like contrast, which simply says to create contrast in your photos between your subject and the background. Here are some ways to achieve this. Place a subject that is dark against a light background, and vice versa. Create contrast of colors, like cool colors against warm ones, or complementary colors against one another. Contrast of size and shape also gives your subject more emphasis, since anything that accentuates the difference is ideal. Create contrast of tone and value. Opposites attract, but even subtle changes between gray values create powerful images. This picture, though having a unique subject, lacks tonal values, and everything is the same. Compare that now to this photo. Notice how the great contrast makes the horse jump out at you. Or use contrast of texture to set your subject apart. Take a look at these photos of watches. To highlight the subject, place the watch against opposing textures such as rocks, grass, fabric, leather, or the bark of a tree. So the next time you're taking a picture, focus on contrast to create dramatic differences between your subject and the background, and instantly improve your composition.